Have you noticed the huge push that all these major food companies are trying to get people to stop eating meat? Well, it turns out there's actually an insidious plan behind this. Watch this.
Henry Kissinger, one of the world's elites pushing to set up the system that the Antichrist will use to take complete control, said in the 1970s, control oil and you control nations, control food and you can control people. And that's exactly what the elites of the world desire. Now, the elites of the world are the people who are at the highest levels of government, international, and corporations internationally. And these people are meeting to try to bring the world under one government, one control system. And along with that process, they're trying to get us used to the fact that the food that we're used to eating, at least in the Western world, is not going to be available or is going to be too expensive, and we should really get used to eating bugs. The World Economic Forum, who is probably the leading group, public group of elites around the world who get together and try to make up rules unelected, make up rules on what we should be doing as a world. And so kind of like the world government, the heads of it, unelected, they make the rules. Here's some articles on their website, why we need to give insects the role they deserve in our food systems. The world's population will reach 9.7 billion people by 2050. This means that despite only 4% of arable land remaining available on the surface of our planet, an additional 2 billion more humans will have to be fed. Isn't it just interesting on a side note when they throw out these numbers of people and how this overpopulation number, then didn't we just have a pandemic? Like, shouldn't that number be going down? Like, shouldn't used cars be plentiful and houses be plentiful because, you know, pandemic, a lot of people die, but no, here they are complaining about overpopulation once again. And these people must think no one ever flies in airplanes, because if you do, you can see that the majority of Earth has nothing on it. Here's another article by the World Economic Forum, and these are within the past few years, but this is an agenda that they are completely pushing and aiming for, and they will continue to. And right now their focus is on food shortages and food inflation, which I'll get into here in just a minute. But this article says good grub, why we might be eating insects soon. That's July 16, 2018, World Economic Forum. And within the article, they praise nations like Switzerland, who in 2017 changed its food safety laws to become the first European country to allow insect-based foods for humans. And that within Swiss marketplaces, they unveiled a range of mealworm burgers and mealworm balls to eat. As well as IKEA, I guess, the furniture company, has an innovation lab called Space 10 that's reimagining popular dishes at the retailer's in-store restaurants, and they're working on bug burgers and mealworm meatballs. Of course, their main push that they're doing with this, which they will continue to, will be the climate. This will be what they're trying to do, saying that the CO2 emissions of animals as well as the water usage of animals is the reason why we need to start eating insects. They even put up these little charts on their website to show just how much less gases insects use and how much less water they require. Even though we live on an earth that's the majority water, for some reason these people just can't, desalinate the water and put farms next to the coast, but that's where they're buying up all their houses at, so there's no more room there, even though they say the sea levels are rising. And this is just the case of the matter. It's clear to see right through when you know what's going on, but they will push this because they love to control things. And just like the initial quote by Henry Kissinger, you can control the people when you control the food. Another quote by Henry Kissinger is that old people are just useless eaters. And of course we know that's how they view us. The elites of the world, the evil people of the world, that is how they view the rest of the world. It's the same thing with the United Nations and Agenda 2030, how they're trying to bring everything into sustainability, and through saving the climate and doing everything we need for the climate, this is how they're going to try and control the resources of the world. They're going to put everything on climate, and we're seeing them starting to do that now with the banning of gas cars and the controlling of how much energy people use. Here's an article from last month, August 23rd, 2022, cricket powder showing up in your food. Here's a couple of the packages of some of the items that have cricket powder showing up in them. Some of them you wouldn't even know. If you just saw this bar sitting there on the side without reading everything about it, you wouldn't realize that there's cricket powder in these things. But we can see that that's definitely where they're trying to push things in the direction. They're definitely trying to get us to try to get used to the fact of eating bugs. It's really, truly probably like a satanic type of degradation thing where these people just live off of harming and being rude and crude to other people. I mean, that's what happens when you're demon possessed. They are cruel to people. All of this is coupled with the food inflation that we're seeing. Everyone knows that the prices of food are going up. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you can't even eat out. You can't eat anywhere cheap anymore. Things that used to be just $10 eating out are now $17. It's completely ridiculous. So we're seeing this increase with the planned collapse. It's all these things, really what they always are is just a push towards the Antichrist system. We know within the Black Horse prophecy of Revelation of famines that will be coming, as well as droughts and pestilence and these things within Matthew 24, that this is just the direction of the world. So this is just what we're seeing starting to go on and take place, and it will just continue on until Jesus Christ comes. So as we see these things, there's really no reason to fear, and there's no reason to fear, get worried. That's not what this video is. Try to plan ahead, find cheaper things that you enjoy. Just be mindful of these events going on. Do not be fearful, and as long as you're living in full obedience and full submission to God's authority and doing everything that you feel He's calling you to do, He will completely take care of us, and everything will be fine, and He will fill us with His Spirit so we have complete peace that surpasses understanding. So as long as we're completely with God, we've got nothing to fear. A few more articles just to document the fact that it looks like food prices will continue to go up, as well as food shortages coming. You just type drought food prices in any search engine. You see the first article that comes up is the ongoing drought in the Midwest has affected approximately 80% of the U.S. corn crop and more than 11% of the soybean crop, triggering a rise in global food prices. The CFR's Isabel Coleman says may fuel political instability in developing countries. Another article saying drought will push food prices even higher, warns supermarket bosses. We're seeing droughts in Europe, America, as well as China and the Middle East, kind of all over. And then massive floodings also destroying crops in other areas. Earth is changing and weather is turning in different strange directions, and it's definitely going to play a role on food growth and food prices. July 29th, 2022, food inflation surges over 10%. Here are the new costs for family diners. And September 1st, 2022, Americans are ignoring the food shortage warning signs. And it really goes on and on. Again, it's not to spread fear, but just to make you alert. You can find things that are cheap. There's cheap options at the store. There's things you can do. You buy extra now and you have it down the line when it goes up more in price, or you could always rely on it later if you just need to rely on it and save some money in other areas. Or truly the better ways to figure out ways to be self-producing of your own foods, whether hunting, fishing, or through gardening. And that's just good to do no matter what the case is, when the end times happen, what's going on, to rely on yourself instead of these corporations and these people who tell us they want us to eat bugs and that we're useless eaters. These are the people who are controlling food prices and making things change. We shouldn't trust these people for anything. They shouldn't even be in power. So maybe try to think of just small ways that you can be more self-reliant and self-sustaining, whatever that may be. And maybe you don't have the means to do those exact things, but you could have some other means to create something else useful and maybe trade with people who have that. I don't know, there's options, but I know not fearing is the main option. Again, if you're in full obedience and under the authority of God, then we have nothing to fear. But these are just signs of the times that we're living in. And my prayer is that these people and these corporations and these elite globalists around the world, these international politicians trying to be the politicians of the entire world, that they would have encounters with Jesus Christ. So